Saturday night in New York City is supposed to be the pinnacle of a college athlete's career. The Heisman ceremony is a black tie coronation, a moment where on-field performance translates directly into generational wealth. Diego Pavia walked into that room, not just as a Vanderbilt quarterback, but as a walking corporation valued at roughly $2.4 million. He walked out as a liability. While the confetti was still falling for Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, Pavia made a decision that likely cost him more per second than he earned all season. It wasn't a crime. It wasn't a failed drug test. It was an Instagram story posted in the early hours of December 14th. 2 words, F all the voters. This isn't a story about sportsmanship. We don't care about feelings here. This is a financial autopsy of how 15 seconds of emotional volatility can torch millions in future earnings. We are going to break down the immediate NIL brand tax he just incurred, the NFL scouting red flags that just went up in 32 war rooms, and the exact dollar amount the single outburst could cost him on draft day. To understand the magnitude of the error, you have to look at the timeline. The loss to Mendoza was decisive, but the reaction was catastrophic. In the high-emotion window following the ceremony, Pavia bypassed his agent, bypassed his PR team, and went straight to his phone. The resulting post, a photo of him with his offensive line captioned with that explicit message to the voters, didn't just express frustration, it signaled a total lack of executive control. Pavia had spent the season building a very specific, very lucrative brand. He was the Manziel 2.0 figure, the gritty, undersized fighter who took down Alabama. That is a valuable archetype. Brands love the underdog, they love the fighter, but there is a razor-thin line between competitive fire and toxic liability, and that Instagram story obliterated it. This is where the clean brand exodus happens. When you look at the portfolio of a college star, a huge chunk of that $2.4 million valuation comes from local and regional sponsors, car dealerships, regional banks, local franchise owners. These are conservative businesses. They want the fighter who inspires their customers, not the loose cannon who insults the establishment. A regional bank president sees that post and doesn't see passion, they see risk. They see a billboard they have to take down because the guy on it might say something worse next week. They want the fighter, but they refuse to pay for the liability. The damage control attempt only highlighted the severity of the mistake. Pavia issued an apology on X on December 15th, acknowledging he didn't handle those emotions well. In the world of crisis management, a 24-hour gap is an eternity. By the time he hit send, the screenshot had already circulated globally. To corporate partners, a delayed apology signals my agent made me do this, rather than genuine remorse. It feels like a business decision, not a personal realization, which makes it less effective at stopping the bleeding. We can actually estimate the immediate financial impact of this freeze. While NIL valuations from sites like On3 are sticky and don't drop overnight, the real damage is in the deal flow. Sponsors who are preparing offers for the post-Heisman hype cycle are now hitting pause to see if this is a pattern. If he loses just 10% to 20% of his projected new deal flow over the next quarter, that is a loss of anywhere from $250,000. That is real money vaporized because he couldn't put his phone down. But here's the scary part. That $500,000 in lost NIL money is small potatoes. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the professional contract he just jeopardized. Because while college sponsors might forgive a passionate kid, the NFL is a ruthless corporate machine that just opened a file labeled character concerns. Now we have to shift our focus to the professional level, because this is where the math gets brutal. Before Saturday night, Diego Pavia was viewed as a borderline NFL prospect. He is undersized, he plays with a chaotic style, and most scouts had him pegged as a day 3 pick, somewhere in rounds 4 through 7, or a priority undrafted free agent. When you are fighting for a roster spot in the NFL, your margin for error is effectively zero. And this is where the CEO of the franchise concept comes into play. In the NFL, teams tolerate character flaws for certain positions. If you are a pass rusher who can get 10 sacks a year, or a wide receiver who runs a 4.2 40, general managers will overlook a lot of off-field noise. But quarterback is different. The quarterback is the face of the billion-dollar organization. He is the CEO. He is the guy who has to stand at the podium after a 40-point loss and say the right things to the media. He has to handle the pressure of an entire city without snapping. When NFL general managers saw Pavia's Instagram story, they didn't just see a frustrated kid, they saw a candidate for CEO telling the board of directors to go to hell because he didn't get a bonus. That is a terrifying specific type of liability for a front office. To understand the financial weight of this, we have to look at the Laramie Tunsil precedent. In 2016, Tunsil was a projected top 5 pick. 10 minutes before the draft, a video of him smoking marijuana through a gas mask was posted to his Twitter account. It wasn't a crime, and it didn't affect his ability to block, but the bad judgment perception caused him to slide all the way to the 13th pick. That slide cost him roughly $8 to $10 million in guaranteed rookie contract money. Tunsil was an elite generational talent, so he eventually made that money back. Pavia does not have that luxury. If Pavia was projected as a 5th-round pick, his rookie contract would have included a signing bonus of around $300,000, with a total value of roughly $4.4 million. If this outburst pushes him out of the draft entirely, and he becomes an undrafted free agent, that signing bonus drops to maybe $15,000 or $20,000. But the bigger cost is the opportunity tax. Draft picks get reps in training camp. Draft picks get the benefit of the doubt. Undrafted free agents are just bodies in camp until they prove otherwise. If this red flag keeps him off a 53-man roster, he isn't just losing a rookie salary, he is losing the platform to earn a second contract. This brings us to the backup QB paradox, which is the specific trap Pavia has walked into. Most NFL teams view late-round quarterbacks not as future starters, but as career backups. The job description for a backup quarterback is very specific. Be stable, be helpful in the film room, and be quiet. You are there to support the starter, not to create headlines. A backup quarterback who goes viral for cursing out voters is the exact opposite of what a team wants in their quarterback room. Chase Daniel made over $40 million in his career, largely by being a stable, smart, low-maintenance backup. By branding himself as a volatile, sore loser, Pavia has signaled to 32 general managers that he might not have the emotional regulation required to hold a clipboard professionally. In a high-pressure NFL locker room, if the starter struggles and the backup is posting angry stories on Instagram, that destroys team chemistry. GMs view that as a contagion. They manage risk for a living. And right now, drafting Pavia looks like buying a stock that you know is going to be volatile. It pushes him from a flyer pick to a do not draft on several boards, potentially costing him a $10 million career swing if he never makes a roster. So how does he fix this? We have seen athletes navigate these waters before with varying degrees of success. You have the Ja Morant end of the spectrum, where repeated patterns of immaturity and poor decision-making compounded into suspensions and massive endorsement losses totaling over $100 million. Morant proved that talent doesn't inoculate you from business consequences if you become a liability. On the other end, you have someone like Josh Hader, who had offensive old tweets surface during the MLB All-Star Game. Hader apologized immediately, took ownership without making excuses, and let his performance on the mound do the talking. He survived because it was viewed as an isolated incident, not a character trait. Pavia is currently hovering between these two outcomes. His apology on December 15th was necessary, but the strategy behind it was critical. He didn't claim he was hacked. He didn't stay silent. He admitted he didn't handle emotions well. This was the only viable PR move available. If he had claimed a hack, the internet sleuths would have disproven it in minutes, compounding the immature label with a liar label. By pivoting to the emotional competitor narrative, he is trying to reframe the toxicity as passion. It is a desperate spin, but it is the only card he has left to play. However, executing this cleanup isn't free. This is the crisis management tax that nobody talks about. To navigate the pre-draft process now, Pavia likely needs to retain specialized crisis PR firms or media consultants, the kind of fixers who charge $50,000 to $100,000 to scrub socials, prep interview answers, and set up positive media hits. That is money coming directly out of his pocket before he has signed a single NFL check. He is effectively paying a six-figure fine to clean up a mess that took 15 seconds to create. The road back starts immediately. The ReliaQuest Bowl against Iowa is no longer just a football game for him. It is a corporate job interview. Scouts won't just be watching his throwing motion, they will be watching his body language on the sideline. If he throws an interception, does he sulk? If a receiver drops a pass, does he scream? He needs to show extreme, almost robotic composure to counter the narrative he built on Saturday night. The broader lesson here for the NIL era is simple. Athletes are no longer just players, they are media companies. And like any media company, if the CEO goes rogue on a Saturday night, the stock price crashes. Diego Pavia proved that without a chief communications officer filter between his brain and his Instagram, a single emotional night can bankrupt the company's future potential. Diego Pavia traded a moment of frustration for a permanent red flag on his resume. The 2 words he posted didn't change the vote count, but they likely changed his bank account forever. Talent gets you paid, but character keeps the checks clearing. Subscribe for more breakdowns on the business of sports and the money behind the athletes.